Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Sports Rambling. I am your host Brian Belsito and I am here to give you an update on the NBA bubble and all of the madness the last two nights. So let's get after it. Hey, what's happening everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sports Rambling. I am your host, Brian Belsito, and I just got to say, we have had a crazy couple of nights in the NBA, and I'm all about it and wanted to stop in real quick, give you my takes on the two game sevens we've had, one each of the last two nights, the two crazy finishes last night over there in the Orlando bubble. So, before I get to that, I wanted to touch on something that's gone on in pop culture and in the sports world the last few days. It's been a really rough couple of days as far as losing some of our icons. So, first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to the family and the loved ones of Chadwick Boseman. That was a real shocker. Losing the man who played Jackie Robinson in 42 on the day that Major League Baseball celebrated Jackie Robinson's life and legacy. That one was just, I mean, a real shocker. To find out that he was diagnosed with colon cancer 4 years ago in 2016, before he had started filming Black Panther and some of the other movies he's done in that time and appearances he's made. Real inspiring dude, and that one hurt to the core. So the other three that I wanted to talk about real quick is we lost uh, in basketball. We lost Georgetown Hall of Fame coach John Thompson. We lost Hall of Fame University of Arizona coach Lute Olson, and we lost a 18-year veteran of the NBA, played his ball at UConn in the Big East back in the day when the Big East was a powerhouse, and that is Clifford Robinson. So RIP to all three of them. Much love to their families and friends as they go through the ordeal of losing them. The other one hit us last night in the world of baseball. We lost one of the 10 greatest pitchers, probably top five greatest pitchers of all time, one of the top three right handers of all time, and that's Tom Terrific, Tom Seaver. 75 years old. He was having some issues with dementia, and apparently he had contracted COVID. So, big ups to his family. RIP Tom Terrific, widely known as the greatest Met of all time. So I just wanted to touch on all five of those losses that we've had recently and give my thoughts and prayers out to the families. So, moving on to the crazy NBA. And you see it right there. I am a diehard Utah Jazz fan, as you guys all know. So I was heartbroken by that game seven on Tuesday night. Just wanted to give you some of my thoughts on that. Coming out of game seven and a terrible loss like that, I have some positivity to build on. Donovan Mitchell has proved to be a dog. This guy is a baller in every sense of the word. He's going to be a multiple time All Star, if not building on this potential to have a Hall of Fame career, but we'll see. That takes much longer than 3 seasons. But he's had us in the playoffs all 3 seasons. He advanced us to the first round as a rookie, and he put up a performance in the playoff bubble that we have rarely seen. Two 50-point games in the series, one of 57 in game one. He also dropped 51 in game four as the Jazz took a 3 games to 1 lead. Now, I warned the Jazz on last week's show when I said, you better close it out in game five because if you take your foot off the pedal, you're going to have problems. And it seems like that may have been what happened. They blew a 15-point lead in the third quarter of game five, never recovered. Game six was ugly. Game seven was ugly. A lot of low scoring, a lot of defense. Although at the very end there, they gave me that lifeline, thinking they were going to win it when Conley threw up that three that rattled in and out of the basket. But
Murray, they missed the layup. Gobert got it. Mitchell hanging at the other end. 2 seconds to go for the win, and it rims out. Denver hangs on.
Major props to the Joker, Mr. Nikola Djokovic, and to Jamal Murray, who played every bit as well, probably a little bit better than Donovan Mitchell when all was said and done, as his team did win. The Jazz, they're going to have some questions going into the offseason. Will there be any residual effects from the beef between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert at the time of the COVID shutdown? As you remember, Gobert was the guy touching all the microphones and blah, blah, blah. We shall see what happens there. They are going to get back Bojan Bogdanovic, a key piece that was missing in the playoffs. They may have advanced if they had had him. You know, you're talking about another 20-point scorer, a long defender, long arms, gets out into the passing lane, might have been able to make things a little more difficult on Jamal Murray. But hey, they got a pretty solid group with Conley, Mitchell, Ingles, O'Neal, and Gobert. O'Neal's the one I think should be coming off the bench. I look for them to, get Bogdanovic into that stretch four. Maybe have O'Neal and Ingles coming off the bench next year and pick up a solid scoring wing guy, a small forward. I think that's what they need. Jordan Clarkson was great off the bench, so hopefully he'll be back. They say they're going to prioritize him. And Donovan Mitchell, they said as soon as free agency starts, he's getting a 5-year max deal. So I'm happy to hear that. Keep that kid in Utah. Keep building. Keep him happy because that dude is a stud. He is a great player on the court, and he is a social justice warrior off the court, and I love him for that. I am very proud to be a Utah Jazz fan, even though they gave up that 3-1 lead. So moving on into the other Game 7, which was last night, and that was the Houston Rockets taking out Chris Paul and the Oklahoma City Thunder. It was a crazy end of the game, all kinds of reviews. Was it a foul? Was he out of bounds? How did James Harden block that shot? This guy has not been able to guard his shadow, for years, and all of a sudden he's become a good defender. Small ball seems to be working for the Houston Rockets. I have to say, I am a little bit shocked. At the end of Game 6, you saw Chris Paul give an interview where he said that some dudes just aren't cut out for the final couple minutes of a game. And last night in Game 7, Chris Paul had the ball in his hands, clock winding down. I thought he was going to go with win or go home on my shot, boys, and he passed it. Ball ended up in the hands of Lou Dort, who had an amazing game. Probably the best Game 7 ever for an undrafted player. Dort was open. James Harden made a fantastic switch out to the 3-point line to get up and block Dort's shot without fouling him. It was a fantastic play by Harden, a great series, and the Houston Rockets move on. So setting up in the West off of those two games, you've got the Houston Rockets playing the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers are a massive team. They are tall, they are long, they are thick. I think they're going to run right through the Rockets. Now the Rockets can put up points, but I don't see how that small ball is going to work against the likes of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, Kuzma. These guys are long and they play defense. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I look for the Lakers to go right through them, probably 4-0, maybe 4-1. Maybe the Rockets get one game, catch the Lakers slipping. On the other series where you have the Denver Nuggets taking on the Los Angeles Clippers, I don't think that the Nuggets are going to win more than 2 games. I think it'll go 4-2 Clippers. Paul George seemed to find himself towards the end of their first round series. Kawhi is always Kawhi Leonard. He is a fantastic player. probably a top five player. Not even probably, he is a top five player in the league right now. Defending champion, or he won the championship last year, Finals MVP, all that goes along with it. I think the Clippers will be too much for Jamal Murray and Djokovic and Jeremy Grant and Michael Porter Jr., who's really played well in the playoffs, but I just think that the Clippers will have too much for them. So I think we're going to be looking at a Los Angeles Clippers, Los Angeles Lakers battle of Los Angeles over in the Orlando Bubble. In the East, you got the Milwaukee Bucks. Very confused by their performance so far. Bad matchup for them playing the Miami Heat. The Heat share the ball. The Heat score in bunches. They get a lot of double-digit scorers. You got guys like Goran Dragic, Kelly Olynyk, along with Jimmy Butler, who's just a stud. Great player, great leader. Last night's game came with that crazy ending where Middleton got fouled shooting a three, or got fouled. It was, I think, a bad call. Dragic was straight up, maybe leaned in a little bit. Middleton goes and bangs the three free throws, ties the game. Then you get Butler chucking up a all the way 20-footer, and for some reason the Greek freak gets involved and touches him a little bit on the torso, and it is a foul. Foul by the record book. A foul is a foul. So I don't know if the refs were doing a makeup call there or what, but that game ended with zeros on the clock and Butler hitting free throws. So the Miami Heat surprisingly have a 2-games-to-none lead. I personally feel like that series is not over, that the Bucks can get back into it, but as we all know, Game 3 is going to tell that story. Can't go down 0-3. So, um, in the other series, the defending champion Toronto Raptors are down 0-2 to the Boston Celtics. I have got to say, I had a feeling this series was a little bit of a mismatch. I think the Celtics, I think Jason Tatum is clearly the best player out of both squads. I mean, Pascal Siakam is a fantastic player, but Tatum is just, he's on another level. Um, Marcus Smart knocking down his threes, cardiac Kemba Walker making plays. The Celtics look strong. Where did the Time Lord come from? Mr. Williams on the Boston Celtics has played very, very well. He's been efficient with his shots. He's an athletic big that you can trust when you throw him a lob that he's going to catch it and put it down. So the Celtics are looking very strong. I look for them to close that series out probably in 5. It just looks like that type of a series. I just don't think that Fred Van Vliet, Mr. Siakam, and company, I just don't think they've got what it takes to take out the Boston Celtics. So I'm looking for a probable. I guess it's easy to say, but I'm thinking Boston in 5. And I'm going to stick with Milwaukee in 7, but I would not be surprised to see the Heat close it out. There's just something about the way they're playing that would give us a Boston versus Miami Eastern Conference Finals, which I think would be a great series. So that's it for today, folks. I just wanted to stop in and talk about those crazy Game 7s that we had the last 2 nights and the other exciting games in the NBA. I have to give major props to the NBA. I do believe they've put on a fantastic, fantastic show, given everything that they've had to get over with COVID and formulating the bubble over there in Orlando. I've talked about it on prior shows. I don't have to go into it too deeply. I just think they've done a great job, and the players have done a great job of bringing their A game when they're out there on the floor. We had the shutdown last week, rightfully so. I'll give you a quick take on that. I think players have a unique platform, and there are some things going on in this country that should not be happening, and there needs to be some major reform in certain parts of our country. So I stand firmly, firmly with the players in their quest to get their voices out. I am glad they decided to come back and keep playing after the 3 or 4 day walkout. I think it was important for them to take a stance, for them to get their voices out there. I think it's important for them to play, though, because that allows them to keep their voices, to keep their platform, and to keep making sure that everybody knows Black lives do matter. So I want to thank anybody for supporting my show, any shares, any likes, any views you give me. I really appreciate it. We're building this thing up. Me and my production team are working hard to bring you guys content as often as possible. I'm thinking about kicking it up to maybe a show a day, 2 or 3 minutes here about what's going on in sports the night before and what we may see that day in sports. So I'm really, really getting excited. This is Brian Belsito signing off from Sports Rambling. Much love to you all from the hot state of Arizona. Thank you very much.